I'm noticing people like to say that the early church fathers prove that the New Testament was already settled pretty early. But the truth is way more complicated than that. Yes, the early church fathers can certainly help your case, but evidence-wise, they're also a double-edged sword. Let's dig into it. Let's start with the helpful side, to be fair. The early church fathers do give us some amazing early evidence. They quote the Gospels, the letters of Paul, and talk about Jesus only decades and centuries after the apostles. They show that at least in some churches, the core story was circulating early. They also help preserve some of the books that we have today by copying them and teaching from them. So yes, they were a big window into what the early Christians believed. But when you actually start reading all the fathers and not just cherry picking the good parts, the picture gets messy fast. Some of these same leaders used books that didn't eventually make it into the New Testament canon. Others doubted books that did. One guy in Syria named Tatian made something called the Diatessaron, basically a super gospel mashing together Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John in an attempt to take out some of the parts that didn't exactly line up from gospel to gospel. Eusebius, another early church father in the 300s, literally divides books into 3 sections: accepted, disputed, and then finally just completely rejected. Interestingly enough, he lists James, Jude, 2 Peter, 2 John, 3 John, and also Hebrews and Revelation as disputed. I said that right. He listed those books, a quarter of the New Testament, as disputed. Side note, he put Revelation in accepted and disputed, I think to show that he was on the fence about it. At that time, some were treating those as scripture. Others were treating them as questionable. And at that same time, other books like the Shepherd of Hermas, the Apocalypse of Peter, 1 Clement, and the Didache were considered scriptures by some communities. So the idea that all the early church fathers agreed, that's just not true. So here's the real story. The fathers do give us some early evidence. They do seem to preserve parts of the New Testament, but they also show a canon forming slowly. In a way, they do defend the faith, but they do not agree on every book. I'm not saying the New Testament is fake. I'm not saying throw out the early church fathers. I'm just saying if you want to use the early church fathers as evidence, we have to take in the whole picture, the helpful parts and the messy parts. And that's the real history. Drop what you think down in the comments. Let me know.